Today we're super fortunate to have Behshad Behzadi. He's going to talk to us specifically about steering your company through the AI revolution. There's really a lot of interesting content to get through here. I'm very curious to see what directions he takes us through. Behshad is currently the CTO and the Chief AI Officer at Sportradar. And before that, he had quite a distinguished career at Google, where he was the VP of Engineering. He was a distinguished engineer and helped co-found and launch key products such as Google Assistant and as well as Google Lens. With that, I'm super excited on today's talk. Behshad, please join me on the stage, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say about AI.
Thank you so much, and super happy to be here. Super happy to see some of the familiar faces from both from some of the my ex-colleagues at Google, but also several other people which I have had the pleasure of meeting them before as well. So yes, I'm trying to talk on basically, this AI thing that everyone is talking about and every company is trying to adopt and change and so on. I'm trying to basically share some of the learnings that I have been having both in my at my jobs at Google, job at Google, but also in the past 6 months, which I'm leading a company mostly to also push them towards doing more AI and try to basically transform the company with AI. So I think that, by the way, I don't have slides. I wanted to generate this, AI generated the slides first, but then I thought, let's just talk and let's have this more conversational. So the first thing I want to just say is that you need to have, this whole AI thing is very, very real. It's the people who want to lead a company towards, towards getting most out of it. They should be the big believers in it. And if any of you is not yet, and you're actually trying to do, to get most out of it, just please, trust it more. There is so much happening. There's so much investment happening. This is, lots of biggest, companies in the world are investing billions there. There's lots of success story. This is not like some of the hypes, other types of technological revolutions which happened, in the just before AI, and so on. So this is very real. It will change everything. Models and AIs are now seeing better than humans. They can read better than humans. They can write better than humans. They can slowly reason like humans and soon better than humans. They can solve, mathematics Olympiads problems. They can solve, they can pass Harvard medical exam problems. They can see things in X-rays which doctors cannot see. They can, they can write, slides better than humans. They can, it's just, you name it. Soon they will be able to create, movies with high quality movies, long, movies without, humans. They can create music without humans. So it's just very, very powerful. These are things which were not possible before, and now it's possible. So I guess we are in a very interesting, period of time, which, for me, someone who has been actually quite involved with building some of the AI first products at Google, even, many of the things that we're seeing in the past 2 years, it's just, wow, it's just we were not believing that this would have been possible, in this time frame and so on. So I guess just the very first thing I want to just say is that this is very transformational. This is real. So just have the full trust and embrace it. I think it is important for leaders to actually, this is one of the fastest transformations which is happening. A thing which is, 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago is different than today already. So it is important that you allocate time to just, keep yourself up to date and familiarize yourself with what's happening. And if not yourself, someone in the team, one of your elites who you're working with, want to be really stay up to date always about what's happening, because and you don't want to just play with these things. Just don't let, there's nothing better than in my life I've learned that, when you want to build a product, when you want to learn about the technology, the number one thing is just using it. When we were developing Google Lens at Google, I had my phone and I was taking pictures of hundreds of things every day just to know that how well it works. With Google Assistant, we were always trying to play with it just to make sure that you exactly know the limitations, you exactly know the power of this thing and so on. So just, that's a thing that, it's key. And I guess one thing we changed really is the barrier to use AI is significantly lower. So before, you really need to have PhDs in, machine learning, AI expertise, and so on, really. But today, thanks to all these large language models and companies who built it, this is pre-built. The art is just go and use it to solve problems. So you don't need to spend, big money for training data, for training a model, for hiring, these top talents and so on. You basically need just people, hackers, who can just try to use and build new types of products based on the existing, large model which is out there. So that's one of the reasons that actually, everyone is now talking much more about it, and everyone is being able to build much more with it. And it has a very interesting economic aspects, because, if you think about it, if for creating an animation, if someone needed, to spend, $500 an hour for a very, top artist, now maybe you can do that with $1. If someone needed to pay a lawyer for, a few $100 for going through this 50 types of, 50 pages to read and extract something, now same types of quality can be done with $1. So it's actually, the numbers is not, 1.2x, it's 100x, economic-wise, when you see that the difference of what's becoming possible and what's not. And every industry is getting, affected, and I'm not going to, I wanted to first have slides and show you this is everything which is happening, but you have seen it, and I don't need to repeat it. So every single industry is affected. Last week I was giving a keynote in front of 5,000 internal medicine doctors, and every other talk was with doctors. They rated my talk, which was, I'm absolutely not medical doctor, but I have been working on AI for healthcare also a bit, and this was, this was the most interesting direction. So every single industry, every single group is actually pushing and trying to see what this means for them. And part of that is, again, this lower barrier together with this transformational new types of things that it can be doing. So now, so I did talk. My last job at Google was I was leading generative AI for applied Gen AI for Google Cloud. So was talking actually and working with many different companies to help them use our Gen AI models. I was trying to basically, fighting with, or competing with OpenAI and Microsoft, and saying that why Google is the better choice. And I love that fight, because it was, I was quite often had to, just say it's not all about the models, but it's about everything else which comes also around it. But as part of those conversations, and as part of the journey I had now in Sportradar for bringing the company a bit more, there are certain learnings which I just want to quickly share those for you. So this is a list of 20 bullet points, which I'm going one by one towards, and just say a couple of words on each of them. And I would love to have at the end, conversation on what makes sense and what resonates and not with all of you. So the first thing I would say is that it's good to have, and in my opinion, important to have a leader for your Gen AI effort. So you can't have a committees, you can't ask everyone to go and do things with Gen AI. So try to have that, that head of AI role, that chief AI officer role, that AI tech lead role, whatever is the right for the size of the company. But make it clear who is actually the real person who actually ultimately makes the decisions, clarifies the directions and so on. So that's critical. And depending on whether this person is, in my opinion, this person should be one of the most senior persons in the company. But when not, you really want to have a senior exec empowerment for that leader sponsorship and so on, because you do want to change things, you do want to allocate resources when needed and so on, and I think you don't want, the last thing you want is to go in debates, internal debates of let's go back and forth and discuss whether this new way of doing things is the right way, and spend 6 months time or a year for that and so on. Part of this leader's role, or that people who will help this leader, is really to define a vision and a strategy for the company. I think it's there are many people who can talk much better about me what's the right way of building vision and a strategy. But the main thing I would say is that the only thing which I would say is really important is that it's important that the company sees a direction. Here is where we're going. Here is what we play in, and here is what we're not, and here is why we're doing AI. So again, remember that the barrier is very low. So just having, just asking people go and do things with AI makes companies to do 200 different random things. But really, trying to drive something in that direction of vision and strategy is pretty important. AI is making things possible which was not possible before. This is very connected to innovation, and it's very critical to have that culture of innovation, meaning that you need to allow experimentations, you need to allow, you need to allow, failures, you need to celebrate failures, you need to, try 4 things and the 5th thing will work. So that thing, if it doesn't exist in a company or in a group or culture, that's a scenario for not getting a lot with AI. So you actually do want to have that openness there. The next point, which I think is one of the most important points in my list, is when I talk to different companies and trying to help them, or also in our company now, initially you just see that, okay, here is a list of 200 things that we want to do with AI. That's just wrong. Don't do 200 things. Select 5 at most. This is the top 5 things that we want to do. When I joined Sportradar, many people thought that I will introduce many new AI projects. I actually started by killing lots of AI projects so far, and I have added maybe 2 new ones, but I killed maybe 20. And now we have this top 5, which is really the top 5s that we want to do. And I think that's because the result of doing too many things, apart from organizational challenges and everything, is lots of tech debts, lots of people and group will do things in a ways that that doesn't align with the rest of the bigger picture and so on. And in that list of things that you do, you certainly want to have big bets. Many companies are out there saying that let's go for quick wins. I think you do want to have some quick wins, yes, and but it's very important to have a nice mixture in that group. Again, remember, you can solve problems theoretically that was not possible to be solved before. So this is the time where you really want to just say that, okay, what's the craziest 100x thing that potentially I could have that. So some of your top AI projects in your company should be very risky and high reward. This is, again, the time to go for such things. And again, remember, you don't need to invest a lot because the barrier is lower, the cost is lower. You can actually, even for those things, you can try to get it easier. Then at the company level, I think you want to both use AI and build with AI. I think any company who has a tech lead in it should also build with AI. But use AI is also important. Use AI means that if some group of companies make lots of presentations, they should use AI to create the slides. They should use AI to for brainstormings of different types of problems they try to solve. They should use AI if you have coders for co-pilot types of experience to write codes and so on. This just makes you more efficient and more productive. So absolutely, every company should use that, but of course you also want to build with AI and others. And I think one thing which is true is that one advice which I have is copy others. This is the time that everyone in the world is doing AI. So just go and search another 20 companies which are similar to your field and see what they're doing, and just try to do learn what works there, and just copy. You don't need to be first. Actually, this is one of the very interesting things. It's actually, I think it's bad to be first. There's lots of very fast movers of AI in the past 2-3 years, which they went the path which was not necessarily the optimal path and so on. But you can just wait 6 months, 1 year, and you're watching around. Okay, this thing is working, so just go through that one. And my other point, which is I think is also one of the very important ones, is try to build the right thing. The product is actually more important than the AI and solutions behind it. I have seen many times, let's say, a travel company uses and makes the craziest chatbot experience, which can solve very complex problems. I have a family of 4, a kid, and my son likes that, my daughter likes that. Like you define a very complex, the problem statement. You give it to this chatbot, it works, and it gives you this is a plan that you should be having and so on. But then when they launched it, people go there and just try, flights Amsterdam, hotels Paris. That's the keywords things that they try to do. So that product is just not right. Even if it's very powerful brain behind it, it's just not right. When you use your phone, this move is a move that people do swipe up 5,000 times a day. This is the thing that we do 5,000 times a day. I worked a good part of my life on making people use voice to interact with the phone. The reality is that even the heavy users of voice, they use it 10 times a day, or in that order. Now, 5 hours on the phone, 5,000 times swipe up. So if you do want to make an experience with Gen AI, let's say, for example, for a shop, you should not go for that voice-related, experience or a chatbot which is back and forth talk. But you should build that brain of Gen AI, but inside a product which actually makes sense and that people really want it. So really focus on the product, focus on the UX, and the tech and AI behind it is next. It's important to be aware of the shortcomings of Gen AI, of course, and the challenges. Again, you certainly have heard the word hallucination and bias in AI and all of those things. There are lots of recommendations and solutions that you can, minimize or get around it. But again, it's super important to be aware of what can go wrong and also educate your employees and teams around them. You do want to, generally speaking, educate your employees when it comes to the AI. You don't want a company information to end up being on ChatGPT or Gemini logs when on the consumer product and so on. You need to know what is, how to respect different aspects of, the privacy. But also, you also want to support your employees to, have when they have questions or something on the AI part to quickly be able to help them. I think you should both worry, and you should also don't worry about cost. It's very easy to use AI and LLMs many times. You get a problem, you say that, okay, I will call 50 times LLMs here and there, and then I can combine them and so on. So it's a big cost and so on. A bigger model means bigger. It's a smarter model, but means more expensive. A 10 times bigger model is 10 times more expensive. But you should also not worry about cost, because if you look at what happens in the past 2 years, the cost is coming down, and it will continue to go down. So don't decide to not go for a very good idea if you feel that the cost is not the best at this point. The Gen AI is like a hammer, and everything else looks like a nail. So you can use it for everything, but you should not. And I think the company can use it for everything, but you should not, because this is again, will make things, both, in terms of organizationally, but also, technical depth and so on, pretty unmanageable. Again, think about a problem or product that you want to solve and build AI for that, as opposed to say that, hey, I have this AI tech now, shiny new thing. Let me see where else I can deploy it. But rather go and say that, oh, there was this hard problem that we had that I didn't know how to solve. There is this value that we were imagining or dreaming to make for our customers, and we didn't know, and now we have this still. Can this help for that one? As opposed to say that, okay, this is a problem we had, now let's go and use AI for that. The other thing I would say is very closely watch the trends. This is, again, very interesting and exciting time, but you can build and invest lots of things today, and in a year from now, the things that you invested today is obsolete. And there are people did something, 2 years ago, and lots of those. So it's hard to recommend something, but I think the most important thing is that be closely aware, or have someone very closely is watching what's happening, so that you make sure that you're aware of both directions. You're familiar with the prompt size, for example. The prompt size just grew from 8,000 words in the beginning to now is, I guess, the biggest one is 2 million or 10 million. I heard that they're having. So it's many companies or teams or groups decided that, oh, we cannot solve this problem, or when they because the prompt size is small, or the prompt size when it became 60K, the 64K, they just decided that, okay, these are types of things that we can do. If you have a problem now which needs a bigger prompt, there are ways. The bigger prompts will come, and also there's, by the way, ways to go around that. But again, the most important, the main point is that look for about the trends of how things is happening, changing, every few months. You obviously want to, not necessarily have everything to this black box of AI. So you want things to be understandable, debuggable, testable, improvable. When the first time we wanted to apply machine learning at Google search, which was many years ago, in a big scale, there was lots of resistance. And the reason was at Google search, everything was debuggable and understandable. For every single query, we fully would understand, and some of the colleagues from the search are here also, that what happens, why is that ranking that way? And when we wanted to bring this black box of machine learning, it just felt lots of resistance and lots of good resistance that we had for how to bring the value of that, because actually it helps the ranking, but it makes some parts of ranking to be not fixable, not understandable. So that's a thing that, again, it's an art of trying to see that where in the company you want to use that and where not. Don't just think about short-term wins, because maybe you get a short-term wins and then you have lots of these black boxes across the company which you don't know. Okay, now later on when you leave the company and someone else is coming, how that person should be changing all of those. I talked about innovation, experimentation, fast failure, iteration. So this is a thing which is very needed in this AI era. I always prefer to have a very small core Gen AI team, like a top talents. You have to pay more for the top AI talents, and because the top Gen AI talents who can actually write prompts that who no one else can write or can hack faster is actually can have the impact of tens of people. So I think it's very good, and I think this is what we're doing now. Also, to have a super small team which is helping the company for all different types of efforts, and of course there's a hiring things related to that. And I think regular knowledge sharing across the company. Again, remember that fast-changing things you do want to share regularly about both, sharing the good news, good wins, learning from the failures and so on. But keep the company involved. A good decision, an important decision that companies need to make is whether they want to build or buy or co-build, and it's actually again depending on the problems is all of those are valid. Certainly again some teams in my new company wanted to build AI model from scratch for something, and I just said, well, let's use that one, and then let's add these three things on top of it, and it actually is much cheaper, much faster to results, and so again, think about what makes most sense. I like AI as a excitement and passion bringer thing to the companies and to the narrative, both internally and externally. Again, I normally actually would have been, using lots of demos and lots of, cool slides and so on, because it just, brings lots of, emotion. But I think that's a good thing to do it both internally, for many companies and many groups, just get excited. Oh yes, we're part of this AI revolution. We're building the future and so on. But also externally. But the catch is that it's very easy to overpromise and underdeliver. These are exciting, direction and areas, but in particular, it's the worst thing you want is that your investor, your boards are given overpromise with something which is likely to happen, but also likely to fail. So it's a right balance of how to both stay passionate about these things, but make sure that you are really promising the right things. And like many innovation other topics, there are some people who will be against it, and there are people have all different types of reasons to be against it. Some people just feel disrupted and uncomfortable for doing things differently. Some people have been building things in a way, and they think that this is the ways that we have been doing it for the past 10 years. Why we should change it? Some people have been. Some people are worried about their jobs because they think that this thing AI, more AI means that less that job title and so on. So be aware of that. Get involved in all those types of conversations. When you want to do bigger number of things, I said you should start with a small number of things like 5, but you should at some point eventually go big and a bigger number. And at that point, you really want to have some governance and so on, and basically try to manage that. So I actually do love to hear some questions and have some discussions also. But to sum up, I think this is very, very real revolution which is happening. This is going to give big wins for every single industry and company in the world. And if you're not very, very seriously looking into AI, you should and start today. Again, the barrier is low, both for learning, for experimenting, and focus on some of those points I mentioned, if that's useful. But please share, your experiences in terms of, what's, I would love to hear questions or experiences in terms of applying AI in groups or companies. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Behshad. So with that, we do have just a couple moments for some questions. He's given us a very comprehensive tour, some key things to be thinking about as we begin implementing Gen AI questions. So with that, let's turn it over to the audience and see if there's any questions that he can share. Here we have a question up front.
Hey, thank you for the great speech. I just wanted to ask, how do you prevent implementing AI just because it's a buzzword and actually focusing on what it can help you with?
Yeah, so what we're doing in my current company is, again, that's why I think it's important to have such leadership roles there, some notion of governance and that AI strategy and so on. And again, we literally, I started in my new company in a very excited way. I went and talked to everyone. What are all the AI things we're doing? Wow, okay, we're doing these 40 different things. It's good. On one side, I like it, but then at some point it felt. So we actually just, top-down said, recommended to stop those things. So we actually said that this is the 5 priorities, and we will come back to some of those other things. But the part of those knowledge sharing, over communicating, having these forums and so on, is also in a way to be aware of, because yes, it is true that lots of things lots of experimentations in different ways will go. I think experimentations, by the way, is fine. Playing with it is good. Some of those playings will come up with good ideas, but trying to implement it in production, different types of things, is very risky, in my opinion, to do too many of this. And yes, people are sometimes, and to my point, some doing it really for the buzz aspect of it. Some startup just want to get funding, and it's of course good to have AI in your story, so that you actually make the story more up to date and so on. But yeah, but I guess it's important to be used in the right place.
Thank you for the speech. I have a question. We are talking about AI as basically as a disruptive technology, which was not in place before. But I'm thinking on a step back, a few years ago, when digitalization was a huge trend in traditional industry, and we can see that. Well, actually, statistically, the majority of the companies, from 70 to 80%, I think, failed on their digitalization efforts because they lacked proper leadership, which we have been talking about right now, and lack of KPIs, for instance, lack of underestimating costs. But also, we can see that those companies who succeeded, like Nike, for instance, or Starbucks, they have evolved their business model as well with going through the digitalization. Do you think we can leverage this experience when we are going to talk about how we can accommodate AI within companies like traditional industries, like digital companies as well, and so on?
Yeah, so when I talked about have some of your directions to be big new things, is actually more disruptive new ways of actually value creation for that business. So at a high level, when you build with AI, either you're saving cost and efficiency in something which was being done before in some way, you just replace part of the code, or some human works within some AI modules, or you actually are trying to build something which was not possible to be built before. And in that case, that's exactly what, to your point, is a potentially new way of products, new disruptive business model there, and so on. The thing is that this one can easily go wrong because you can focus on using AI buzzword and not the ultimate value. So it's not that easy. I mean, if it was that easy, that everyone was just creating the next big thing with AI. So it's again, I mean, my judgment and my experience is very good to really focus on the product, focus on the depending on, of course, the fields of that company, focus on user experience, build something which is really bringing that value for the end customer, and then use AI in that direction, as opposed to just, let's say that, okay, now let me do the whole thing very differently. So that's maybe the 2 words I would say on that.
Thank you. I have one more.
Yeah, sorry.
Question here. Can I? Okay.
I don't see you, but
here.
Yes, I saw you now.
Okay. So thank you also for not bringing slides. That was refreshing. You mentioned a small team. What are the key skills and roles that you would put in there?
So in my small team now, I have someone who's, I would call this person a world-class prompt engineer, which means that then he's very, very up to date on the latest of things. So I actually ask him very regularly. I talk to him, hey, this person name, tell me about that, can you go and talk to that team, and so on. So that one person is actually very key for me. And then I have a couple of people, maybe including myself, which is helping with both, like a product, look into the bigger picture, trying to make sense of whether this product makes sense with this solution, whether this solution is feasible, what can go wrong. So just a leader in some sense, which has both product feelings, but also reasonably hands-on experience on usage of AI. And I would not build a team of 20. I think I'm really talking about a really core group of 3-4 people max. And of course, different teams are going to use AI AI for different, applications. But this team is really now helping, with each of those parts. I think it's always also important to have, when it comes to small teams, that people who can obviously work nicely with each other, flexible, all those aspects of good working team with each other is part of the story also, of course. But that would be my priorities there.